You and I must never let ourselves grow so familiar with what Jesus was willing to suffer for our eternal forgiveness that we lose the shock and sadness along with gratitude. Well, in the previous study, we looked at the rule of the King of Kings, this kingdom not of this world. John 19 turns us to the love of the King in a sad, horrible, dramatic way. This is John 19. Then Pilate took Jesus and flogged him, and the soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head and arrayed him with a purple robe. They came up to him saying, "Hail, King of the Jews," and struck him with their hands. Pilate went out again and said to them, "See, I am bringing him out to you that you may know that I find no guilt in him." So Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, and Pilate said to them, "Behold the man." When the chief priests and officers saw him, they cried out, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Now it was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. And he said to the Jews, "Behold your king." They cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" Chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." And so he delivered him over to them to be crucified. You and I must never let ourselves grow so familiar with what Jesus was willing to suffer for our eternal forgiveness and reconciliation and restoration that we lose the shock and sadness along with gratitude. We should never, ever take for granted the extent of the love of the King of Kings for us. And there are a few passages in Scripture that more powerfully demonstrate the extent of this love than the passage I just read. Remember, the man standing before Pilate was the God-man, fully human and fully divine. Before Pilate is the King of Kings, the sovereign Lord of the universe, the Creator himself. Now think about this. That means that Pilate had no power over Jesus, but the power that Jesus granted him. As Jesus was being tortured, a crown of thorns jammed into his skull, blood running down his face, slapped in the face, mocked for his position, you're about to say he was giving life and breath to his torturers. Totally in control of his creation. We know this. We know from the turning of water into wine that he was in charge of every molecule of the created world because he was both man and God. Jesus could have stopped the torture at any moment. He could have called a legion of angels down to defend him. He could have ended the life of Pilate. He could have ended the life of the chief priests. He could have ended the lives of the Pharisees. He could have ended the lives of the Roman soldiers with a thought. Jesus had the power to stop this travesty of injustice and torture. And he could have preserved his life, but he didn't. Why? Would the most powerful person who ever walked on earth allow himself to be treated this way? There's only one answer. Because of the depth and zeal of his redeeming love for you and me. You see, Jesus knew what his job description was. It's there all over the Old Testament. He would be despised and rejected. He would be mocked and mistreated. He would die for sins that were not his own. And his love was so deep and powerful, he was willing. This passage is a powerful argument for the extent and depth of the love of Jesus for his own.